John Gaul. He is a member of the Cross River State House of Assembly, a member of PDP. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, by the way, members of Labour Party and the Action Congress of Nigeria, logistic challenges again, so they couldn't make it here today. So perhaps on Wednesday they'll be here to give their version of what transpired. But thank you for coming on in the meantime. Yes, indeed, the winner has since been declared, but of course you heard that they've been complaining about the process, how it went. What did you think about some of the complaints that you heard?
I think some of these complaints have been raised over time, and
including the fact that the voter list should have been revisited or updated before the actual election so that you can verify those who are voting.
Well, it's not a condition under the Electoral Act that should be done before the elections. Mind you, what we are having is an election that is being conducted not necessarily in accordance with the computation of time provided under the Electoral Act.
So you don't need to update?
Yes, I'm coming to that. We are having an election that we are doing because there was a judgment of the Court of Appeal of 15th of April that has extended the tenures of the governors for Cross River up to August 2012. And now INEC filed an appeal, Marwa filed an appeal as well, and then the Supreme Court judgment of January 27, asks that elections should hold immediately. That's the implication. The reason is because under Section 178, sub 2, an election into the office of governor is supposed to hold not earlier than 60 days and not later than 30 days. That's 90 days. Now, this period provides for display of voter register and the rest. Now, that 90 days is 90 days to the expiration of the tenure of the governor. Now, but when the judgment of the Supreme Court came, the judgment of the Supreme Court said that the tenure of the governor had already expired by May 28, 2011. In other words, the tenure of Imoke had expired 9 months. So there was no way INEC could go back and stand by the dates of April 2012. The reason is because that means that the election into the office of governor of Cross River State will virtually hold maybe like 11 months to 11 months period. So INEC had to immediately hold that elections. Now, with respect to the dates in other states, what INEC did was to confirm those dates, and in the case of Cross River, they had to fix that date so as to comply with that judgment of the Supreme Court. Now, whether or not the voters register ought to have been displayed is an issue that INEC can tackle. But I believe that, assuming these elections held in April, these issues will have come up. These elections did not hold in April because of the judgment of the Supreme Court.
Which of the issues? The voters list?
No, or the
date of the election?
The date of the election and the voters list. In other words, if our elections was going to hold in April, had held in April 2011, would have used the same voters register, would have used the same data of INEC. Yeah. Now, the fact that this election is coming up at this time, 9 months after we were supposed to hold the election, did not allow INEC the latitude to display, revisit, review the register. I attended.
Is that tenable?
Yes, it is. If the voters register, if INEC is of them, if INEC that has proper custody of the voters register,
couldn't INEC have given themselves that window to ensure that, subject to litigation, we will come out clean? I
attended the briefing by Professor Jega and in Calabar about the elections, and Professor Jega was clear on the matter. Before the April election, the voters register in Cross River had been reviewed, had been displayed, and the register is intact.
Before the election?
Before the election in April, yes. And that register is authentic. He said that register is the most authentic register they have.
Are you not saying that between that then and now, nothing is possible, nothing could have happened? Nobody died, nobody became 18 and all that?
No, but you don't need to, you'll be complicating the matter by insisting that, you now have to, review the register because the election did not hold as at when it should hold, and bring in register new voters, take out the list of those who are dead and all that. I agree with you, it's necessary. But if INEC for logistic reasons feels that we do not have that time, and what we have is the register that would have been used for that election in April that we are now holding now. Remember that this is an election that would have held in April. So I don't think that substantially will change the number of voters who will vote at that election.
Okay, what would you say accounts for the low turnout at the election?
Well, I think the issue of low turnout of election is something we have to deal with as a country. It's not peculiar to Cross River State. I think number one, for Cross River, if you look at it, I'll tell you that, sorry to use the word, we are tired of holding elections. Look, we've had 3 elections in 4 years for the same position of governor. We had an election in 2007, we had an election in 2008, and we're doing another election. We're supposed to have done an election in April, and 2 days to that election, the judgment of the Court of Appeal came, and the elections couldn't hold. Now, when you also look at the fact that Cross River State is a one-party state, so to say, since 1999, and if you look at the results of the elections, if you look at the
another one-party state now.
Yes, I can say that. Look at the data; is there very clear, and you look at that, you discover that most of these opposition parties did nothing. They did not campaign. They did not. Probably they had voters, that people who would have turned up in that election.
The ACN, yes, the Labour Party did.
They were in court. They were in court 24 hours to the election.
They didn't campaign.
They didn't campaign. Yes, they didn't campaign. They were in court 24 hours to the election. Some of them hanging around courtroom to get injunction to stop the election.
It's not a tad curious that your party is taking the same position as INEC.
It's not curious. It's coincidence that we have the same reasons like INEC. Yeah, but I think so. And if you look at the issue of, like I was saying about voter apathy in Nigeria, we're still having a situation where we have a lot of work that needs to be done. It's not just by government, it's not just by the political parties themselves, but also by INEC and the role that civil society should play in mobilizing people to come out to vote.
The Labour Party candidate, pardon me to button that, Iman Sadigoke did release a statement, a press release, and she says in that release that it's important, quoting the second paragraph now, it is important to point out that a day or 2 before the elections, our candidate, signed by on her behalf now, that's why I say our candidate, was informed that it was the plan of the PDP to allocate to her the 4th position in the election so as to ensure that she will not in any way come close to winning or even second in the event of a legal contest. This she made known to the party faithfuls at the time. And then she also says here that in the light of the position of the AMPP, which publicly stated that it was not participating in the election and had not one single agent in any of the polling units across the state, yet somehow was allocated the 3rd position.
Well, I want to give them benefit of doubt, but what I'll have to say is that as a party man and as a voter as well, because I voted in this election, as somebody who is also part of the system, I don't think that Labour Party has any reason to complain about the elections in Cross River.
Why?
Whatever you put out as criteria that is required by a political party or a candidate to do in order to get votes in an election, Labour Party did not do that. If you go to Cross River State, you have locations from Calabar to the last local government. You have about 400 kilometers. It's almost like a whole day journey. You do like 6 or 7 hours or so to get that, and it's very difficult. When the Supreme Court judgment of 27th of January came and the election was nullified, His Excellency 3 days thereafter, the former governor of Cross River State, came down and started his campaign. I was part of that campaign. We went around all the 18 local governments. We did stakeholders engagement with youths, stakeholder engagement with women, and we did other program engagement with traditional rulers and leaders of opinion. I'm coming. The purpose of that was to sell our candidate. Election is business. We had a responsibility to sell the candidate. Remember that, for everything, if you look at the data, Imoke has never contested an election as an incumbent governor. At all times, he's always from the outside, and so we have the benefit of having to go back to the field to do that work.
And the benefit
and the benefit of having to campaign for our votes.
Yeah, but since you say it's a business, how did you source the funds?
Yeah, business, you have to source funds. We had the fundraising dinner. We have a party that is existing.
Did they realize?
I'm not an accountant. I don't know how much, but I donated. I donated money. I donated 400,000. I donated 400,000 cash. I'm part of this project, and so if I believe that Imoke has the qualities to be governor again, and I'm a member of the PDP, I should donate. Members of the assembly also donate.
Is it not fair because when they say that PDP, you say it's a one-party state in Cross River State, so you have your members at the local government level, at the executive level, And so you have access to a lot of funds, and that's an unfair advantage for those who don't.
Please, let me just go back to Adegoke's statement first before I come to that issue. You see, you may need to ask Adegoke what structure she has to win an election in Cross River, or what she has to get beyond what she got. Because the thing is that when you have a political system that is compartmentalized, you have the ward structure, you saw the polling unit structure, you have the ward structure, and you have the local government structure, you have the state constituency, the federal constituencies. There's no way anybody can take you out of business if you have the structure.
The PDP had it in Imo, but they were taken out of business by
Imo is not Cross River.
You use that as one side.
Yeah, you have to understand that in Cross River we have a political culture and we have an economic culture.
They don't have in other states.
Not that they don't have in other states, but ours is peculiar. Ours is peculiar in the sense that what we had done, is that in 1999 when Donald came in, he had a program, and that program was an extended program to say that we are looking at 25 to 30 years of development in Cross River, and we have two peculiar characters that we believe would drive this policy.
Even though he left at some point because he disagreed that we were not following that process.
No, he did not disagree.
Why did he leave?
It was misquoted. Donald Duke did not disagree. Donald Duke has done an excellent job for Cross River. He had laid the foundation. We have Tinapa, we have a lot to show. When His Excellency came into place, you understand that government is business. We had some kind of casualties out of the management of our economy. One of such is that we had a few debts we needed to settle out of Tinapa. And because of that, the government of His Excellency Senator Imoke came in, and the first obligation they had to do was to settle debt so that Tinapa continues to remain a business concern. Now, as an assembly, we on our own, we haven't gone in to look at the debt profile. We've looked at the debt total, and we're trying to find a way to ensure that government pays less from the taxpayers' money from Tinapa debt, but have the small money to invest in other sectors of the economy. So, because of that, the people of Cross River State, at least in the next 16 years, will continue to believe in the PDP and in the character of Donald Duke and Senator Imoke. Now, anybody who is coming to contest election within this period is going to have an uphill tax.
Okay.
Because Imoke has continued from where Donald has stopped, and we can see the evidence of that. And
two quick questions.
Sorry, let me just conclude. And so that's why you see that during our campaigns, Mr. Donald Duke was part of the campaign from the beginning to the end. He was part of the campaign. And Donald Duke was a credibility as well to the fact that he delivered in 8 years. I have a brother who can do in another 8 years.
Two quick questions for you. The verdict was delivered on 27th of January this year. Did the Supreme Court stipulate when the election should hold?
Supreme Court did not give any consequential order.
So if the Supreme Court did not stipulate, how come INEC, did not conduct elections immediately after that verdict was given, or maybe the following day?
Let me explain the
if we are all saying that this election should have been conducted last year, and as such we should conduct it as soon as possible. I mean, let's be fair on the other candidates. They have asked for time. If they asked for time, INEC too also needed time to be able to conduct these elections successfully. And as it were, they took about a month to be able to do that. If the candidates who are going to participate in the elections also asked for time as well, why was it too much for INEC to grant?
I'll start by a principle: volunteer not fit injuria. The parties cannot complain. These political parties outside the PDP cannot complain. They cannot complain. And let me tell you why. When the judgment of the Supreme Court came, INEC took out time to reschedule all the other elections. For some of them, they already had prepared dates. For Cross River, they knew that since the tenure had already expired 9 months, there's no way they'll go and extend for 90 days. And remember, the position of the acting governor under Section 191 must expire also after 90 days. What INEC did was to present a program to the political parties. And INEC requested that they submit the list of their candidates and other conditions before that period. And they complied with that provision. Most of them submitted even their nomination before His Excellency Senator Imoke submitted this. But so what are they complaining about? They were ready for the elections.
No, but if you
the only issue that came up was when the AMPP went to a court in Abuja. They filed an action. I was following up that action. That action was transferred to Calabar. They went back on Friday evening and filed another action, and then claimed that the judge made a court order, which was never made.
If you say they can't complain, that would be inconsistent with their right, because even you lawyers know that when you bring a case, they will accept it. Even the courts cannot throw it away without listening to it first.
No, you cannot do a somersault at that point. If I present a program to you and I say I want to do election in 30 days, submit to me the list of your candidates. all of them conduct. And I said
they complied, but
only the courts can say that.
And I said only primaries that were held after the April 15th judgment of the Court of Appeal will hold. Now the parties, PDP had to do another primary in January. All these parties did their primaries and came up with their list of candidates, presented them for elections, and they have their deputies. But so what are they complaining about that point?
When you say that election is a business, now you have people thinking that, oh my goodness, so we're buying a commodity when we vote.
It was an afterthought by them. Yes, it was an afterthought. Look, if I'm not ready for it, look, it amounts to and some kind of inconsistency. When you want to lead, you have to try. It may not be too good, but you have to show that if you put a straight line, you follow the margin. When you come up with a program, and Professor Jega said it very clear, I came up with a program and I said we can do the election in 30 days. Submit your list of candidates, of your governorship candidate and the deputy governorship candidate, and that was done. Look, when we decided to even conduct a search in INEC about the list of candidates, we were shocked to find out that we had 12 candidates to the elections.
All right, okay.
More than we had in April. So what are they complaining about?
All right, that's what
why are they now taking responsibility of INEC to talk about? Some of them were talking about that they should use electronic voters register.
Should have been allowed to vote?
Yes, do you know what?
The Bakassi residents, should they have been allowed to vote?
The Bakassi case is very complex.
Oh dear. Okay.
We are mixing. We are mixing. Yes. No, we are mixing. In Bakassi. We are mixing legislative issues with legal issues, and then politics from the stakeholders.